Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to room 5 of parallel session 3 of LLTC 2022. I'm Desha here, and I will be the person in charge of this room. I will also act as a timekeeper, and I will be reminding the presenter probably 2 minutes before the time is up. So, in this parallel session, each team will have 15 minutes to present, and then the question and answer session will be placed on the last 15 minutes of this session. The Q&A session will be moderated by the person in charge. And each presentation will be moderated by the next presenter. All right, so without any further ado, let us begin with the first presentation, which will be delivered by Ms. Lautan Elsyadani and Ms. Madefrida Yulia from Sanata Dharma University, which will be moderated by Ms. Dwi. Is Ms. Dwi here? I guess Ms. Dwi is not here yet. All right, then I will moderate your presentation. All right, Ms. Lautan, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Desha. I will start to share my screen. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are in good conditions. My name is Lautan Elsyadani. I will present my research entitled Lexical Hedges used in spoken language evidence from preserved PCFL teachers teaching simulation. So I was conducting this research collaborated with my lecturer, Ms. Madefrida Yulia. So without any further ado, I will start from the background of this study. So social interactions is something fundamental for us as people, as we are part of society, right? So we need language in it. And here we talk about English as we are part of English community. And Pharma and Tan mentioned that verbal speech or spoken language plays such an important role in social interactions. That's because not only for exchanging information, but our words in spoken language also carry interpersonal messages. And Raikkonen mentioned that hedging or hedges is one of the language features that can be used as one of the communication strategy to convey these interpersonal messages. But what is hedges? So hedges was proposed by Lakoff back then in 1970s. It is known as language features that represent lack of confidence. So Lakoff interpreted that language feature as a sign of social insecurity. However, over the years, studies related to hedges have been developed, and they're not only limited to expressing a lack of confidence. So for that reason, I chose pre-service teachers to be part of this research because as a future teacher, we are expected to use English to communicate and as part of social interactions, and one of them is during the teaching process in the classroom. Therefore, it is interesting to learn to explore more about how lexical hedge is used by pre-service teachers in their spoken language in teaching simulation. So we formed these two research questions. The first one, what lexical hedges are found in pre-service teacher spoken language? And then the second one, what are the possible functions of pre-service EFL teachers' use of lexical hedges in their spoken language? So to answer that research questions, I use qualitative approach for this research, and then document analysis also applied. For the type of the data itself is the pre-service EFL teachers' utterances during teaching simulations. There were 12 pre-service EFL teachers involved. They are from micro-teaching class, which was conducted in the previous semester. And the source of the data is the teaching simulation transcript and also the recording. For the data collection, here, the data was collected using classification table, which also based on the lexical hedges framework. And then the data analysis, it started with data reductions, data display, and conclusions drawing. Here is the lexical H's framework that were used to identify and also classify the data, the speaker's utterances. There are 7 types of lexical H's here. The first one, personal evaluation, and then expressions of approximation, expressions of limitation, modal verbs, expressions of hesitations, lexical verbs, and politeness mixing. Now let's move to the findings of this research. Let's start from the first research questions. So the questions is what lexical H's are found in pre-service CFL teacher spoken language. So from the findings, there were 264 occurrences of lexical H's found in the pre-service CFL teacher spoken language. And all types of lexical H's were found in the spoken language, in their spoken language. The highest one is modal verbs with 38%, followed by politeness mixing, 27%, expressions of hesitation, 13%, expressions of limitation, 9%, expressions of limitation, 9%, personal evaluations, 8%, expressions of approximation, 4%, and then the least one is lexical lexical verbs with 1%. Now, these are some expressions. These are the expressions that appeared from each type of lexical H's. Now let's move to the second research questions. What are the possible functions of those lexical H's that were found in the pre-service CFL teachers in their spoken language? Let's start with modal verbs. So the functions of modal verbs is to soften the speaker utterances which related to seeking permission, asking requests, and also giving suggestions. Here in this example, okay, KL, can you help me to read the orientation? So from this utterance, the intentions of the speaker is to request something from the addressee so that the addressee would do something. And the use of question form here and also the modal verb make the speaker request less direct. Similar like the previous one, here, you may go to the link and then you can download the handout there. But if your answer is no, you should, touch your shoulder like this, okay? So modal verbs here, may, can, and should also used to make the speaker request less direct. The difference is they didn't use the question form. The next one, we have politeness mixing. So the speaker here used both expressions, unfortunately, and also please. The functions of politeness mixing itself is to give a sense of politeness in the speaker utterance. And it's related to, it will be useful when we want to convey unpleasant informations. And also when we want to get the addressee attentions. Here we can see how it works. Unfortunately, the function here was to ease the unpleasant information related to the time limit, the limited time that they had. And then the expressions please also used to get the addressee attentions related to the next informations, to the additional informations about the exercise that the student should do at their home. The next one, we have expressions of hesitation. So these types of H's mark vagueness or hesitations in the speaker's utterance. So in this example, the speaker said painting the Easter egg, or maybe going to church and then or going with your family. The function here is to mark the hesitations in the speaker utterance. And it also, at the same time, it also helped the speaker to help them formulate their thought before continuing the list of notion. And then here we have expressions of hesitations, probably. So the use of probably here, the function is to mark vagueness in the content. It increased the hesitation or the vagueness related to the time allocations that the speaker gave to the addressee. Next type of H's is expressions of limitation. So the functions of expressions of limitation is to limit the scope of the topic that they talk. So it is used to save both the speaker and addressee face. For example, here we can see, what do you mean? Do you want to just answer yes or no? So the word just create limitation related to the answer, and it's like the speaker give directions on how the addressee should answer. So just answer yes or no. So it limit those options of answer. And then a little bit we have, since I know that you're tired, we're going to have fun. A little bit have fun, but that's okay. So the speaker rephrase, we are going to have fun, a little bit have fun, the idea of have fun. So the word a little bit creates limitations toward the idea of have fun. So both of them used by the speaker to avoid misunderstanding between the speaker and the addressee. And then we have personal evaluations. So this type of pages is speaker oriented. So the function is to reduce the strength of the speaker's statement or utterances. So how it works is that here we have, actually this is love song, sad song, I think. So the words I think highlighted the speaker utterance as their personal opinion toward the topic that they discussed. The same as before, here we have personal evaluations. I hope, I believe, I guess. Those expressions also reduce the strength of the speaker's statement. It helped the speaker to make sure that the addressee understand what they said were not a definite truth. And then we have expressions of approximations. Expressions of approximations, also known as fuzzy language, because the function is to bring fuzziness towards the speaker utterances. So here, for example, this example, and then using adjective to, for example, good, bad, understandable, and etc. And then the next one, yeah, that's kind of a social criticism song. From the first example, they use etc. here, bring fuzziness toward the end of the speaker utterances. And then for the next one, yeah, that's kind of a social criticism song. So it brings fuzziness toward the informations that the speaker want to said. So there was a bit hesitation there before the words kind of. And then the last one, the last type of pages here, we have lexical verbs. There were only two occurrences of lexical verbs. And let's see from this example. And then try to identify the information using the table, and then write your work on a piece of paper. So the expression, the function of lexical verbs is to soften the utterances related to giving suggestions that should be put into practice towards the addressee. And also the function is to show that the speaker personal view is also to highlight the speaker personal view. Let's see from the first example here, the expressions try to soften the speaker's suggestions related to the certain steps that the student should do. And then the next one, you all seem in a good condition and a good mood. The expression seem here showed that the speaker's statement about the good conditions and a good mood was their personal judgment or personal view towards that situations when the communication happened. So from that research, the conclusions is that all types of lexical pages were found. The most frequent type used by pre-service level teachers in their spoken language during teaching simulations was modal verbs. Meanwhile, the least one was lexical verbs. And then the possible functions of those lexical pages that they used were varied. It depends on the category and also the context when the communication happened. So these are some of the references that I used for this research. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I will give the time back to Ms. Desha.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lautan, for your presentation. And now let us directly move to the second presentation, which will be delivered by Ms. Kusna Apriani. from STKIPPGRI Pacitan, but unfortunately she cannot come now so that we can see her presentation recording. All right, so this is Ms. Kusna's presentation.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Susna Aprianti and Zisafiko, and then I am from Pacitan, STKPPG Pacitan, and today I will present my paper with the title Children's First 5 Years in Response to Language Development. So let me start my screen here. Okay, so here my focus in children language development, and then I will start with my background of research. Early year is a golden age when the brain develops at a breakneck pace. As a result, giving stimulation at that period is a requirement for parents in order to maximize their children's development. It means that the stimulation of children is needed in children language development, especially in language development. So the stimulation can be from parents or caregivers or family members or friends and their surroundings. And then stimulation also give important setting point in children development. Words or what is known as speaking will reflect a child's curiosity and passion for anything that is seen, heard, and felt. So here speaking or the language development in the first step is it is a milestone of children in their language development. So we can see that language development, it is not only linguistic matters, but also it is pre-linguistic stages. In pre-linguistic stages, we can see that there is crying, cooing, babbling, and so on. And then in linguistic stage, the children will express their first word utterance, one word utterance, and also it is followed by the joining states and also combining states, recursive steps, and also adult language stage. And then children that can speak have demonstrated maturity and readiness to learn. So they represent or they show that speaking is like the first stage that they are ready to learn. Since speaking allows them to express their desire, interest, feelings, and thoughts verbally to those around them. So they can speak or raise their feeling, for example, their interest, or maybe they give critiques through speaking. So from this statement, it is important that speaking is the important milestone in language development. Children pick up a lot of information when playing, including concepts, colors, shapes, size, and amounts among their things. So here, playing is important for children. They can show their problem solving, they can develop their language, they can develop their social social ability to know each others. They can learn about problem solving, they can improve their gross motor skills, they can also learn how to negotiate, how to compromise with other children. And then here research shows that play can improve children's abilities to plan, organize, get along with others, and regulate emotions. But we can see that nowadays a lot of children do not play with their friends in surroundings, but they prefer to maybe playing by themselves at home. In addition, plays help with language, math, and social skills, and even help children cope with stress. So here, playing means learning. So they can learn many things from the surroundings. It also, they can release their stress by communicating with their friends. Okay, and then my next slide, my objective of research. There are 3 objectives of research here: the implementation of children's first 5 years games in family environment, the pattern of children's first 5 games, and the effect of children's first 5 years games. And then the method here, I use descriptive quantitative research designs, and then I take the data from 30 mothers in rural area, and then here, mothers with low economical ability and also low educational background. And then I do interview, and also I implement questionnaires with observers. I mean, I ask my students as the observers or for the respondents. And then I gather the data, analyze, and then show the result. And then my result here, the first is the implementation of children's first 5 years games in family environment. From this chart, we can see that the activities and mother and children spare time, the majority of them is playing with children. So the mothers and children play together, and then the rest consists of taking rest, learning with children, both playing and learning. So the parents or mothers can add like the material or learning material to, in playing activities, and then they do exercises or sport, and then selling items, trying new work. I mean, the mother trying new work. I mean, from when they skip or when they off from one work, they go or they find another work, and then taking rest. And then relates to the duration of mother and children spend in the activities. The majority of the respondents tells that 3 until 5 hours in a day. So they spend the activities together, and then 6 until 8 hours, and then followed by less than 2 hours. And then some respondents do not answer in clear, and then more than 12 hours, and then 9 until 11 hours. And then the pattern of children first 5 games in a family environment. So most of the parents do non-language games. It includes like Lego, puzzle, hide and seek, or maybe playing with cars or dolls like that. And then 44.4% of parents do language games. So they believe that language games like flashcard, Pictionary, or reading short story for the children can motivate or can increase students or children's language development. So some mothers believe that they read the story before sleeping give good impacts in children language development. And then the first 5 years games effect toward children language development in family environment. So here we can see from the chart that children language ability in language communications, 75% active in communication. So from the respondents data, we can see that most of the children can do active communication with their parents, and 25% they do passive in communication. Most of them have limitation in their playing activities because most of the parents or mothers cannot accompany their daily playing time. And then children communication ability, the children can communicate well, so they can raise the questions, they can give their opinion, they can show their response. And then the rest is children cannot communicate well. I mean, they cannot form the good language, the exact and clear language to communicate with parents. And then children ability and expressing feeling. The majority of the respondents saw that the children can raise his or her opinion. So here they can ask questions, they can show their needs, they can express their feeling with their parents. And then 28.6% they cry when expressing their opinion. So they can exactly show their opinion or feeling, but they cry. So remember that cry is also one of pre-linguistic stage. But when we talk about children in 4 or 5 years, crying represents that they cannot communicate or they cannot show their feelings well. And then 14.3% they do tantrum. So tantrum means like uncontrolled anger and frustrations. It represents that the children cannot help their self to show or express their feeling. And then children communication ability when meet new people. So they have confidence, 35.7%. So they have confidence in communicating with new friends or with new relatives, and then feeling afraid, and then feeling indifference, and feeling happy. So we move to the conclusion. The research concludes that the ideal amount of time and type of simple games, such as traditional educational games that parents give to their kids, can have an impact on their mental health, manifested in high levels of self-assurance and curiosity, as well as the growth of their language skills, which encourage active communications. So we can see in that first 5 years games motivates their children to speak more, and it also represents to good language development for children. So that's all for my presentation. Sorry for mistakes. And then for the questions, you can send to my personal WhatsApp, and then I will answer directly. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right. That's the second presentation from Ms. Kusna Apriani from STKI PPGRI Pacitan. So now let's move to the third presentation, which will be delivered by Ms. Dwi Indra from Muhammadiyah Bangka Belitung University. Ms. Dwi Indra, are you here?
Excuse me.
Yes.
So I am partner of Miss Indra. So there are two authors of this paper actually, but maybe there was some misunderstanding in registering, and unfortunately, Miss Indra is unavailable for presenting the paper today due to her health problems. So I'll be the one who takes over and do the presentation now.
All right. All right, Ms.
Mhm.
Rindu. So
Mhm.
the presentation will be delivered by Ms. Rindu Handayani
Yeah.
and will be moderated by Ms. Tautan. So Ms. Tautan, the screen is yours.
All right, Ms. Rindu, are you ready to present your research?
Yeah.
Okay, so for now, Ms. Rindu will present the research titled Enhancing Students' 21st Century Skills Through Wordless Picture Book Need Analysis. So, Ms. Rindu, without any further ado, you may start your presentation.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, should I share my screen by myself, or is it from the PIC?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hold on. Is it seeable?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindu Handayani, and this paper entitled Enhancing the Students' 21st Century Skills through Wordless Picture Books and its analysis was authored by two researchers or authors. They are Dwi Indra Prilandari, which is my partner who is available today, and I am Rindu Handayani who will present this paper today. So um, this paper is all about how we develop a book um, entitled Worthless Picture Books, because we think that it is necessary for 21st century skills, especially for students to develop and know or recognize new things, especially for books in learning English, so that they can boost their motivation as well as their English skills, because the students are not only providing the process for successful learning, but also ensuring that they can thrive in the new side of the world that constantly changes. Yeah. You know that in everyday English books that we see or that the students usually used to learn, I think we think that it is just usual books which provide them with limited pictures. I mean, like motivational and inspiring pictures, for example, or that can boost your creativity. Especially in English books that they use in their school, so that why not picture worthless picture books? Worthless picture book is a book that is has no words at all to tell the stories of the book or stories inside the book. Why worthless picture book? Because massive information in this era, especially in technology era, we think that English skills must be obtained by many kinds or various ways, especially through the books. So that we need to do the analysis whether this book is available, or whether the students really want to learn with this kind of book. Of course, this kind of research is research and development, which is uh, done by the first step, which is needs analysis that we did previously and written in this paper. So on it, the analysis is a basic step with R&D, so that we can move on to the next step. In this needs analysis, we shared the questionnaires which is related to questions that can dig up more information from the students, especially from this worthless picture books, whether they are willing to learn, or whether they are really engaged with the previous book, or they want to learn with the new books. So it is kind of simple um, observation that we did in the school, which is in SMP Muhammadiyah Pangkal Pinang, and we shared the questionnaires with at least 40 students who gave the answers in the questionnaires. So we had several questions related to worthless picture books that we showed in the results and discussion and in the diagrams. So the first result, or the first question related to the questionnaire, is that the relevancies of the media in learning English. So we asked the students whether the media that they use is related to or can support to their English learning. For example, here we have YouTube, textbook, application here, like Elsa or English First, or anything else that they can use for studying. Movie and music, internet, Google, and other things, or speaking with the native. Unfortunately, most of the students choose textbook is the most relevant media for learning English. I maybe it's because they are used to it. Then we move to the second diagram, which illustrates the textbook. Whether the textbook can illustrate more information or give more what is it knowledgeable information for them, and of course they need more visual creation in books so that they can see more things and can imagine what really happens in the book. And then we move to the next question, which is included in the diagram tree. Which kind of illustration that can stimulate students' English skill, whether they agree for this statement or no. So they agree that more illustration actually can stimulate their skills. So they need more critical thinking here, and they think that they can think critically here. And then the next question, they also think that illustration can solve the problems due to the reasons that when they see or they vision the more illustration, they kind of rethinking the unimaginable world, which is answered by their um, unanswered um, memory. And then they also think that illustration can stimulate their critical uh, thinking skill that I uttered previously. They also think that they their literacy skill can be stimulated by illustration. So those are the questions in the questionnaires that is related to the analysis. This kind of questions we gathered, and then we analyzed that um yeah that we need as the researchers, we need to develop a media which is in textbook, and in that textbook we need more pictures to show them the real world is not just you know um answering the questions and answering the filling gaps in the books and then do the examination. And then from the results of the questionnaires, an interview with the students of SMP Muhammadiyah Bangka related to learning using wordless picture books, it was found that it can be more attractive and innovative to learn English using textbook which contains more illustrations. And then um, the needs of the students who stated that books with more illustration are able to make the imagination and helps them in honing their English skills, spoken and written. The purpose of using wordless picture books as teaching materials integrated with 21st century skills is to answer the demands that are centered on students' ability to solve problems. The problem-solving ability can train students to make decisions independently, think logically, analyze, and evaluate situation critically. So yeah, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much, and yeah, I'm waiting for the questions and discussions later. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lindu, for such a fruitful discussions related to wordless book. That's such an interesting topic. Okay, so I'll invite other participants to maybe one of you who wants to uh, ask questions related to Ms. Lindu presentations. Please don't hesitate to ask directly or just write it down in the chat box. So I think because this is the end of the third presentation, should I give it back to Ms. Tasha for the Q&A session?
Thank you, Ms. Lautan Elsa, for being the moderator for Ms. Rindu's presentation. And now we are moving to the question and answer session. Please mention your name, affiliation, and to whom the question is addressed and what the question is. And from the chat box, we got one question from Mr. Cahya Pratama from KBI Sanata Dharma University. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just confused when there is a little bit as an example of limitation to avoid misunderstanding. Do you think it can actually create more confusion because a little bit can also be ambiguous? How many is a little bit? 1, 4, 6, or 10? Thank you. I think this question is addressed for the first presenter, Ms. Lautan
Yes.
and Ms. Madhya.
All right.
Do you want to answer it now, Ms.
Yeah.
Lautan? Okay.
Sure. Okay, thank you for the questions, Mr. Chahya. So a little bit here can be create ambiguity again if it refers to something that can be counted. For example, like put more sugar, like we need to put number in it, like maybe 1 spoon, 2 spoon. But here the context is that the idea of have fun. So a little bit have fun. So it refers to the general activity that the student would do in the classroom. So it's not something that cannot be counted by numbers. So even the standard of heaven itself can be different from each individuals, right? So the functions of little bit is to let the addressee know and that they still need to, even though they will have some fun, they still need to focus on the learning process or the learning activity that the speaker will organize. And I hope that's answer your questions.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lautan. Does it answer your question, Mr. Cahya? Okay, I think Mr. Cahya is already satisfied with your question. All right, any other question?
Maybe I want to ask questions for Mr. Rindu. May I?
Sure.
Okay, so do you think the learning process using the wordless books, do you think it is applicable for maybe the lower level of educations, or maybe it can also be interesting for the higher level of educations? And in relation with that, do you think, for what I was wondering is that maybe the vocabulary of the students plays such an important role when they try to working on this learning using the wordless book. So maybe do you have like recommendation activity, additional activity to maybe before or during the learning process using the wordless book?
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Lodan. That's an excellent question. Well, if I have to answer your questions in a scientific way, I haven't yet able to answer it because it's still a need analysis. So we haven't done finishing the process of making the book or developing the book, and or in our research and development. There are some steps that we need to do. The first one the needs analysis. So we are in our first step right now. However, I am convinced that these worthless picture books can enhance their English skill as well as their vocabulary. One thing that I need to inform is that this kind of book is only available um, as long as I know and have read the references. That worthless picture book is very well used for lower level students. No, not lower level students. I mean the seventh grader students, for example, not applicable for higher level students in the schools. Moreover, for adult students, for example, so it is for the students who are still in their preschools, for example, and then we take these polls here, the seventh graders that I haven't mentioned in my presentation, that the participants here were the seventh grader students of SMP Muhammadiyah Pangkal Pinang. So they are in their seventh grade. As we know that not all the students here, especially in Bangka Belitung, are capable of producing or um, creating sentences and words using English. So we need to really be careful with that, and we want to provide this, whether this worthless picture book one day can boost their motivation, especially, and their skills. Um, Related to your question, um yeah, I think this can enhance their vocabulary. And yes, we have some activities in that book later on. So we provide the first thing we provide is that the whole story of the pictures, and then the at the end of the book we provide them with some questions or activities, like we give them questions related to the topics in that textbook. For example, it, for example, the seventh grade students learn how to introduce themselves. So we give them some vocabulary there. Especially this is only worthless picture book, but we still actually give them some questions and activities. Like I stated before, we will give them like a vocabulary or activity to do, like to perform how to introduce yourself to others. And then um yeah, the topics here are various, I think, because we just follow the syllabus for the seventh graders. So when we see the syllabus, we know the topics we won't get out from that. I hope that answer your question, Miss Lautan.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rindu, for the explanation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lautan, for the question, and thank you, Ms. Hindu, for answering the question. Uh, is there any other questions? So please, you can raise your hand or you can type it in the chat box. And please mention your name, your affiliation, and to whom the question is addressed. All right, everyone. If there is no questions from the participants here, uh, let us conclude today's session in this parallel. So thank you very much for the presenters and thank you very much for the participants. And you may visit to other room which still have presentations. Maybe you can visit room 1, room 3, room 6, or you can also visit room 7. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Deshan. Also,
Thank